So, welcome everybody to, I think it's our 16th Real Conversation. I am absolutely delighted to welcome John Brotbeck all the way from Richmond in Indiana.
Hey everybody,
John,
Ian,
welcome.
good to
Great
see
to
you
have
again.
you. Yeah, it's
Good to
great
see
to have
you,
you.
and thanks so much for having me. This has been a real treat getting to know you, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today and our future work together and friendship.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great to get to know you fairly briefly, but I've known you now for, gosh, probably virtually for about 2 years. I think I've been following you on LinkedIn and your various interesting posts, and we've had a couple of conversations now. So it's great to be interviewing you today. So we're going to be talking for listeners out there about packaging, our favorite subject. But specifically, we're going to be talking about design innovation and the importance of creativity and collaborating, and the importance of sharing in a global community. And with the technology of Zoom and Teams and all of these wonderful systems that which are we've become so used to now, uh, post COVID, it enables us to be able to connect like this. Here you are I don't know how many thousands of miles away, in beautiful America. Is it sunny there today, or is it raining?
You know, we have very British weather today. It's like 50 degrees and rainy, and
Is it?
um, it's springtime, but yeah, I'm ready for some warmer weather. But I can't complain when we get rain. It's better than being in a drought, that's for sure.
Well, it has been raining all day here today, but it's actually brightening up now, thank goodness. So, by way of introduction, just a little bit of background for listeners about John. Um, wow, what can I say? Well, John, um, well, there's so much to tell you about him. John is head of design at one of the leading corrugated and display distribution companies in the United States called Crown Corrugated. They're based in St. Louis, in Missouri, in the United States. Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I'm
we're
pronouncing
technically
that right.
Crown Packaging Corporation, and most of us Yanks call it St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay, St. Louis. I beg your
Yeah,
pardon.
yeah. And
Um,
by the way, we had our 50-year anniversary in 2019.
oh, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
He's passionate about design. John is passionate about design, 3D construction, graphics, and the use of sustainable materials. And he lives and breathes many other art forms to express his creative talents. He survived kidney cancer in 2017, Hurricane Irma in 2018, and has been married for 21 years to Trish. Congratulations!
yeah.
I mean, wow, that's absolutely amazing. So,
Not a boring existence so far.
no, not at all. Educated at Sinclair Community College in Dayton in Ohio, he studied
Yes,
packaging engineering instead of becoming an illustrator or architect. He's also has a great passion for bourbon, good old Scotch, autocross, motor racing, car detailing, Gran Turismo, cooking, music, dogs, and birds. So this is going to be a super interesting conversation. I can't wait to get going if we can stay sober long enough. And
yeah.
on that note, here he goes.
So this is a corrugated design I did a couple years back. Just it was for an actual project, but whether it materialized or not in this design, I will still take credit for this. This was for a wine company, and I'll give
Yeah.
them a short plug. Their name was Empathy, which is why I put the heart front and center. But
Okay. Cool.
being that this is my personal collection of Scotch, this is one of my favorites.
Fantastic. Oh, look at that. And you've got a nice bottle of Ardbeg there, hey?
Ardbeg
Yes.
Ardbeg Anois. Um,
Anwa.
I'm a particular fan of Isla's single malts.
Hmm.
It's something about the ocean and the peat that makes it super, super smoky and peaty. And I've had Highlands, I've had different blends from all over the country and the world, and um, I always come back to my first love, which was Ardbeg. It's not the one I drink most often. Lafroig 10 is probably my favorite go-to, and it's available almost anywhere. This is a little bit harder to find.
Well,
But interesting fact on the label, there's even a map. I'm having a hard time focusing here.
Yeah.
It shows you where Ardbeg Distillery is.
That's a long way up in the north of Scotland there. Wow. I've
Yep.
not been there. Well, I've got a monkey shoulder, which was a
Beautiful.
Christmas present from one of my best mates, batch 27. So it even though it is quite early, it's very early for you. I mean, it's quarter past
It's
5 here.
it's Friday. I'll have a liquid lunch once in a blue moon.
Let's do it. I mean, I'm going to clink glasses to you. Clink.
Clink.
Cheers. Good ad.
Cheers.
Mm. Well, look, John. Let's get cracking. One of the things I love about John is his willingness to share ideas and introduce the endless possibilities of design engineering to the masses, which of course is now possible with a click of a few buttons. This is actually how we met, of course, via LinkedIn. And I've been following John for about a couple of years now, and he's always had something interesting to share. And he also does much charity work, which we will discuss later in the discussion. Before we get into it, John, you know what I'm going to ask you. What do you like doing when you're not bending bits of cardboard and trying to come up with the next amazing design?
Oh, that's a great question. I will have to say, first and foremost, the thing that I do most often is follow Formula One racing on TV. Huge fan of Ferrari. I'm actually consider myself a tifosi. Just about, I would say, 80% of my wardrobe is black and red. Even
Okay.
my water glass is red. My smartwatch is red.
Okay.
That's how much of a Ferrari fan I am. And autocross is something that I've been doing since 1998. For those of you that over in the UK that might have been not familiar with that word, it's called Gymkhana, and I think it's been around since the 50s, when during the early days of the small MG sports cars, the two-seater open top lightweight cars.
Mhm.
It's done one car at a time against the clock. It's very safe, held by the Sports Car Club of America.
Mhm.
And ironically, I just in the mail last week, I received my 25-year
Oh, cool.
membership.
Right.
That's a pretty big event in my life. That's actually indirectly how I met my wife. She wasn't into the racing, but her college roommate was, and that's a mutual friend that we had together. So that's how we met. And when I was in Chicago,
Hmm.
um, yeah, my wife and I love to do road trips. We don't travel by airplane very far, but my family's really close, so we go to see them pretty often. They're only an hour east of us. Um, I love catching up with friends on the phone. I know we have so much technology that we can use, and I really, again, Ian, can't thank you enough for connecting with me through Zoom, because it's just amazing how we're halfway across the road from each other, and it's like we're next door. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would say in a
Amazing.
nutshell, that's what I do when I'm not getting paper cuts.
Yeah. Paper cuts. Quite. Well, look. My next question, which I wanted to ask you, was where on the planet is the most inspiring place you've visited so far, and why is it so special to you?
I would almost every time someone asks me a question like that, Interlaken, Switzerland comes to mind.
Mm.
As a young boy, my brother and I and both my parents, we lived in Madrid, Spain, because my dad was an Air Force auditor. So we had the awesome opportunity to live in Europe. And so every summer when we were out of school, we would travel. And we would drive our little 1978 Ford Fiesta with all four of us inside and a luggage carrier on the roof. And I have super fond memories of that trip in particular because we camped in a tent for at least a week, and just breathtaking mountains and just pristine water that you can see through all the way to the bottom. It's basically glacier meltwater, and
drink. You can probably drink it as well without
yeah, oh yeah,
without being ill.
just the scale of the panoramas that you get is just it's the stuff of dreams, and you don't get that a little bit in the Rockies of America, but there's nothing like the Alps. Yeah.
Have you skied in the Alps?
That's a funny question because the only time I ever tried skiing was in Kentucky, which, if you're familiar with Kentucky, it's not exactly a mountainous region, but there are some hills. And even on the gentle slopes of Kentucky, I fell so many times. I think I had bruises on my rear end for a couple weeks, which is ironic because I have good reflexes. I have good balance. I should have learned at a younger age, I guess, to ski.
Yeah, I didn't start learning skiing till probably when I was about 25. I wish I'd learned earlier, but
Right.
one of my passions. So, out of all the projects that you've covered, and I'm guessing it's been thousands and thousands, which project would you say you're most proud of, and why is it so special?
That's a great question. Oh man. That's one of the things about LinkedIn that and how we met, Ian, is that, you know, I have a spirit of collaboration and helping just about anyone on the planet, and LinkedIn is a great platform, especially for industry and especially for packaging, just in our little tiny world. And I have maybe 1,000 followers at the moment, and I bet half of them are in packaging, if not more. Um, but to answer your question, what I am so proud of is I actually have a project as we speak that is being presented to the customer. And it's not what the reason I'm saying that's so special to me is that I'm not at liberty to say a lot of details about it because of just the confidentiality of the customer and everything and where they're at in the launch process. But that makes me so proud to say that I'm still, even after 30 plus years in this industry, I'm working on projects that I'm so jazzed about. But I can tell you in my past, I always mention the fact that early in my career, when I was at Gaylord Container in Chicago, this would have been in the 94, 97, somewhere in that range of years. I did a lot, if not all, of the stoneware packaging for Pampered Chef, which is a very large company. Well, in the market in America, it's basically cookware, and it's not sold retail. It's only sold through kind of like Avon and Tupperware. It's sold through home parties, and it's very popular. And as far as I know, they're still using the same design structurally that they used back then.
Sure.
And then there's I'm trying to think of some packaging that I've done for some worthy causes. And none are coming to mind, but I know there's been a handful of those where we helped, like, say, the Red Cross or UNICEF or someone like that with their packaging, and if not a packaging design, definitely with their how should I say it? Their coming to market experience. So, yeah, that's a great question, and there's a handful. We could talk about that all day of the stuff that I will say. You just reminded me, or I reminded myself of one time where I took it beyond the packaging design. We had a customer that sold EPS foam strips for we call them pool noodles in America. It's basically just a toy you take in the pool with you, and it's actually I saw the same thing in a Mexican Walmart one time, and they call them spaghettis, which is
Oh,
very similar to the word spaghetti, and I can see why they call it that. But this customer was literally all they wanted was just a plain old RSC box with these pool noodles standing up inside, and they were going to tear the top off and throw it in the aisle at a Walmart or a grocery store, what have you. So that was easy. But I took it a step further, and this for some reason I was inspired because of our customer um, sold their products through a catalog that was for it was called Front Porch. They're still around. They make high-end patio furniture and things for your lawn and garden and things like that. I designed using a couple of pool noodles. A game that's really popular, a pub sport almost in America, is called cornhole. And so I used the pool noodles to make a cornhole game that would float in a swimming pool.
yeah.
And at the time where I worked at the old Wilton Connor plant, which was IP retail in Charlotte, North Carolina, the customer came by for a visit to show, so I could show him this, and I threw it the pool cornhole in this big fountain that we had in the lobby. It was an amazing building,
Yeah.
and they got to see it live and in person. It was just they just were beside themselves. It was so great.
Fantastic. Fantastic. For some reason, you made me think of a. Have you seen a product called Flex Hex or Flexi Hex, I think it's called.
Yes, that
It's
is cool stuff.
stretchy.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Okay. I was
just the
going to
past
say,
on LinkedIn actually about a year ago is the first time I saw it. It was mind blowing.
I mean, they're packing surfboards with this stuff. Paper-based,
Yes,
stretchy paper product. It's phenomenal.
so cool.
I did a trade show in London, oh gosh, probably about 3 years ago with A Plastic Planet, and they were in the booth next to us. Really nice people. And
Great.
I thought, such a simple idea, but so cleverly executed.
Yep.
I love stuff like that. So, okay, let's get into this collaboration because I know how important it is to you. So when we talked the other day, this passion for collaboration, and also you talked about emotion in the workplace. Can you elaborate on that and why is that important?
First of all, collaboration to me means working together. It's a two-way street, a symbiotic relationship. It has to be organic. It can't be robotic. It can't be transactional. We are humans doing business with humans, as my manager says, and that rings true and has for most, if not all, my career.
Mm.
As a junior designer, you tend to be stuck back in the design lab, and you're just a CAD jockey drawing and pumping out samples, and that's fine. That's actually part of your training. It's almost like if you're in martial arts, you have to practice the art. Just an idea is nothing without the actual product coming to fruition. So collaborating to me, it's so important. Early, and I'm talking to young designers as well as veterans. I'm I tend to think of myself as a young designer trying to go back in my past and talk to myself of what I would have liked to have known. And that's another example of collaboration. Um, you can sell yourself and your designs to anyone that will listen, but your customer is not only the end user, but also who's trying to tell the story to the end user. So any way you can do that, whether it's with sketching or illustrations or the ability um, to talk, is actually lost on some people, unfortunately. But um, communication and collaboration are just vital, and the emotional part of it. To me, being a fan of Ferrari, and the color red is not just because of Ferrari; it's also the color of passion, and that's why I'm such a fan of it. Um, if you are not passionate, and I don't think they can be separated, passion and emotion. Um, there's an example of passion without emotion, I would think would be like someone like Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo that could paint and leave behind these beautiful historic paintings.
Mm.
But we had no idea what they were going through emotionally at the time, other than they were probably at great peace with themselves and were not, you know, worried about their, their scrambled eggs being ruined that day for breakfast. They're so focused on what they're doing. And um, I've been told once or twice in my past by a manager or two that we should try to take emotion out of our jobs, and I kind of disagree with that. I mean, it's one thing to be a stone wall, but it's not. And it's also on the flip side, it's you can't be going off half cocked all the time and being a fiery pistol. There you have to be humble, not just in your job, but in your interaction with the world. And for as much as I'm talking, I don't feel humble right now, but I'm just. It's
I
very
think you are.
important.
I
It's
think
very
you are
important to
humble.
me when I'm conversing with someone that they understand my point of view and I understand theirs.
I mean, it's always a challenge, isn't it, getting a good brief? Um, and sometimes a client or the person that's briefing you doesn't know what they want until they actually see it.
Hmm.
And they may not be able to therefore sketch their vision, and you
Right.
have to try and help them create that vision.
That's right.
And that is a difficult process, isn't it?
It is.
To try and join the dots. Uh, and I think unless you've got that kind of brain that can interpret various different art forms, whether it's
Mm.
words, pictures, and so on. And of course, collaboration can sometimes require lots of people in the chain. Whether it's the people in the factory that are going to pack it, or whether it's the retailer that's going to merchandise it, or whether it's the consumer that's going to consume it. There are lots of people that need to be taken into consideration
That's right.
when you're designing something. It's a
Absolutely.
complex process, isn't it?
It is. And a lot of people, it's lost on a lot of people. And I will say the word empathy comes to mind when I'm at a customer in front of them with the sales rep who, whether or not the sales rep has a design brain, let's call it. Usually they don't, but that's fine. That's where we come in as designers. I forget who said it. I don't think it was Dale Carnegie, but uh, I know one thing that Dale Carnegie did say: people don't remember you for what you say; they remember you for how you make them feel.
Yeah, for sure.
That is very true. And the other one that I can't remember who coined the phrase was, "You should listen like a hungry dog,"
Beautiful.
and that's true words. So whenever I'm in a meeting learning about the opportunity, I definitely shut up for the first few minutes, and then when it's my time to, sometimes I have an idea right off the bat. Sometimes the wheels have to turn for a little bit. Sometimes I have to sleep on it. There is no hard fast rule for how quickly or efficiently the thought process has to be.
A few years ago, um, uh, uh, business I worked in, we had an opportunity to do some design work for Diageo, actually for the Guinness brand. Are you familiar with Guinness?
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody Irish out there will know a lot about Guinness.
Yeah.
And I decided to pull various members within the team together, and I brought production, sales, design, marketing, and I brought everybody together, and we actually spent an evening in a pub consuming Guinness and other beverages. And from that evening, what was created was absolutely incredible because it was not only creative, but it was also pragmatic and beautifully thought out. And then when it was eventually presented back to the customer, they just could not believe what they had seen. And we won the contract and went on to make an awful lot of displays for them.
That's a
But that was
great story.
that was true collaboration. You know,
Yes,
bringing everybody together to try and make it work beautifully.
that's great. I need to get and excuse me for 1 second.
No worries, no worry. We can break and cut and do
You
whatever you
just
want.
reminded me of something that I have in my kit. You just
Hmm.
reminded me that something I have in my kit that you would everyone would enjoy. This was given to
No
me as a
worries.
gift by a coworker. The $1 Million Idea napkin sketchbook,
Yeah,
and it's full of napkins
brilliant.
to
Oh, love
for
it.
all your ideas. And as you can tell, I haven't used much, if anything, of it. But I
Some
need
of
to keep this in my back pocket. It's just a little too big.
some of the best ideas and inventions started off on a napkin, didn't they?
That's right.
In
And,
fact, if you watch the film, which I think you'll find very interesting if you haven't seen it, the story about Lamborghini. Have you seen that film? I think it's on Apple TV at the moment.
no,
Oh, and some of the designs of the Lamborghinis started off on sketches on napkins.
beautiful. I'll
Yeah,
have to check that out. I'm a huge fan of all sports cars and especially the Italians.
yeah, and there's an interesting interplay between Lamborghini and Ferrari, which you might find very interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, Enzo and Lamborghini did not get along very well.
What the charity work that you're doing? Can you elaborate? Talk about that a bit more.
Sure. In the past, I've done some work with through my local churches where, for example, my wife and I went and did some gardening for a women's shelter on a couple of occasions. One thing that I was heavily involved in for a year or two while I was in Charlotte was something called Kairos, which is a interdenominational faith-based prison ministry. And so we would go into the local it wasn't a maximum security prison, but it was some people there were there for life, but most were there for 3 years or less. And what we would try to do would be just bring them outside food that they didn't normally get, like fresh bananas and donuts and sausage biscuits from Bojangles and all kinds of things like that, and just brotherly love is really what it boiled down to. Because a lot of these guys didn't have a good relationship with their father, if their father was even present in their life at all. And most of the men in this group were extremely fortunate and blessed to have a great upbringing with both their parents, which is becoming less and less common, unfortunately. And even more rare is to have their father present in their life. So um, it just it was a very very fulfilling experience to be able to share with these guys, just spending time with them, and with someone on the outside that doesn't look down on them like they're a piece of dirt. um, and I will tell you, one of my favorite uses for LinkedIn, besides networking with people, is what I like to call help beg. I'm a beggar helping other beggars trying to find food.
Mhm.
And there is a particular person on LinkedIn that comes to mind. Her name is Sherry Garcia, and she owns or is the founder of Cornbread
Mm.
Hustle. Cornbread Hustle
Mm.
is a very similar situation where they help guys and girls that have been in prison and have a criminal history find work after they get out.
Right.
That is such a hard thing to do in the United States traditionally. But
Yeah.
with groups like Cornbread Hustle, she's been such an inspiration. And Sherry, if you're listening, I know that I try to help you as much as I can when you send out emergency help for, hey, this person needs a job, and um, that's just the smallest thing I can do is just to mention someone in a post or what have you, because social media is so powerful for things like that, and it can be used for good. And yeah, and I wouldn't call it charity work, but it's almost it was a hobby for 5 or 6 years. But I was a volunteer for the Sports Car Club of America, not just through autocross, but through course marshaling or flagging and communications. And I have met so many people from so many interesting walks of life. I've got so many stories that we could take up hours and hours about, but that was such a fun part of my life. I was almost uh, I wasn't say I was almost killed a few times, but there was some situations where cars, things can happen so quickly. You have to have your wits about you, and um, there's been a handful of times where I'm like, you know, my wife probably wouldn't like it too much if I got killed at this racetrack. So, plus I've pulled my hamstring and a few other injuries, and I'm like, I'm getting too old for this, so I don't do it anymore. But I definitely it gave me a new appreciation for when I
You're
watch
obviously you're
Formula
obviously
One on.
born you're obviously born lucky, and
You have
maybe
you've
you've
all this
acquired some
stuff.
good karma, you know.
Yeah, surviving cancer, the hurricane, race cars flying at me. I could go on and on. I will tell you one of the reasons that I'm such a dog lover is that my life was saved by a Saint Bernard when I was about, oh gosh, 3 years old. We were walking along a stream in a beautiful part of Pennsylvania, and I fell in head first, and I had gotten too far ahead from my parents, and they didn't see it happen. But the Saint Bernard that belonged to my aunt and uncle did see what happened and came and grabbed me out of the water by my diaper and pulled me out. Because when you fall in face first and the water's only a foot deep, you really can't roll over. And so I don't know if I would have drowned, but I definitely would have probably inhaled a few snails or some goldfish or something like that.
Brilliant. I love it. Talking of dogs, I've got a dog just here that's
He
set
was
up.
there a minute ago.
It was. I don't know whether you can see him. And he's fast asleep down there somewhere. A miniature
Oh,
schnauzer called Herbie.
hey Herbie.
Yes, he can't hear you because you're coming through my ears. But hey
You're right.
ho. So right. So as you know, the packaging industry is going through a paradigm shift, given all the changes in legislation toward the use of certain materials, such as plastics, for example, with taxation. We've got certainly in the UK some really heavy changes in extended producer responsibility, where the cost of disposing of packaging is going to be put very firmly at the door of the producers. Um, what's your view on this, and do you think enough is being done by manufacturers, retailers, brand owners, and all the other people within the supply chain? Because I
That's
mean, the waste and pollution is a massive problem.
yeah.
What's your view on it all?
That is a very deep question, and we could talk about that for a long time. But in a nutshell, one of the reasons that I'm in the industry that I'm in is because corrugated is, before the word sustainable was on our lips, it has been sustainable all along.
Mm.
The materials that we use to make the paper, the southern pine in this country, and some of the other pine trees, the coniferous trees that are used to make the virgin fiber and pulp, that industry are great stewards of their property that they grow the trees on. For every tree they cut down, they plant at least 4 or 5. Some of them do 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So it's not only sustainable, it's renewable, whatever buzzword you want to throw at it. But the reason that I am in this industry is that paper, uh, if it doesn't get disposed of properly, recycled, it will eventually return to the earth. It's not like,
But
glass, plastic, of course, metal takes eons to break down, where paper is much, much shorter.
it's truly circular, isn't it, from an
That's right.
environment or from a biosphere
That's right.
perspective? But
But
it is a true fact that the a lot of consumers still think that paper, carton board, corrugated products, timber products are causing deforestation, right? And
that,
that is
yes,
because
because we are deforesting, but we're we're that's only half the story. You're cutting down a tree. Well, yes, that's absolutely true, but we are planting more, and they don't take very long to grow. They take less than, oh gosh, I should know this, but I think the time, you might be able to interject here, Ian, but isn't it true that the time it takes a tree from seed or seedling to being cut down for use is like less than 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the some of the softwoods that are
Yeah.
harvested, like any crop for making fibers for paper and board. Yeah, 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing, of course, deforestation is a whole different subject, which is, as you well know, is more to do with the competition for land use, for farming cattle, growing palm groves, uh, whatever it may be. That deforestation has got nothing to do with managed forest. Now, I
That's
think
right.
in the States you have SFIs at the um,
Sustainable Forestry Initiative.
yeah, because
And then there,
in
the
Europe we have
FFC.
FSC and PEFC, which are the most common
Yeah,
certification programs. But you have SFI in the States, right?
right.
And do you know how many, or how much of the forest in the States is SFI certified?
I have no idea, but
Okay.
that's a great question. I do know that very little hardwood is used in the paper industry. I know
Yeah.
it's used in pallets, and of course, um, office paper can be made from cotton, uh,
Mm.
a mix of cotton and usually softwood for pulp. But yeah, the hardwoods used in packaging are very rare.
And are
Maybe in
any
the
of the mills, sorry, and are any of the mills using alternative fibers from plant-based stock? Whether it's miscanthus, hemp, or any other plant for that matter, cotton.
uh, So I was introduced to miscanthus through you and that elephant grass, and that is a fascinating story, and I'm really excited for that to come over here. Um, and I'm sure our listeners will look deeper into. If you just Google elephant grass paper or elephant grass packaging, or Ian, I'm sure you have a link to your
Mm,
story about that.
mm,
What I can tell you is bagasse I'm familiar with, which is the waste left over from bamboo or sugarcane.
good cane.
Not
Yep.
bamboo,
Yeah.
sugarcane. We use some of their paper in the folding carton design world for people that were absolutely, positively 100% behind how it looked recycled. It had little bits
Bits in
of,
it. Yeah.
yeah, of whatever, the waste was.
I've
But
got I've got some here actually, so that we can show.
yeah,
Mm,
it does have its place, but of course, if it went, oh yeah, you've got
that's,
some molded
so
trays.
that's bagasse. For anybody that's interested, that's miscanthus, slightly darker, few more bits in it.
That looks
Similar,
total.
similar
That
feeling.
looks totally crunchy, dude.
Yeah, it's good. People are gonna love it. People are
That's
gonna love
awesome.
that.
Yeah, but back
Would,
to your question, as far as the alternate papers, I'm not well versed in that, but I can tell you that the recycled content and the reuse of what we call OCC or
mm,
old corrugated containers is a huge market. That's actually one of the things that Jefferson Smurfit started back in the 80s and 90s,
huh.
bringing back the wasted corrugated in bales, and now it's actually traded on the open market.
So, when comparing paper-based packaging with other materials, what do you see as the main advantages vis-a-vis recyclability, environmental, and social impacts? I know we've touched on it a bit, but um, what do you tell um, your internal and external clients, should we say?
Um, I would have to say that when I'm being totally objective, there is a place in the world for foam. There is a place in the world for plastic bubble wrap, for, you know, and there are strides being made to make these cushioning materials and packaging out of alternate materials that aren't plastic. But strength or cost per strength, I learned this in college 30 plus years ago. Cost per strength, corrugated is a better alternative than steel. That
Okay.
was pretty eye opening to me when I heard that. Um, But like EPS foam is one of the things I always jump to. It's like it's definitely the devil's stepchild. No one wants to use it. It's being banned in California. I personally, and I know a lot of people listening, uh, hate it when they order something, no matter what country it's manufactured in, and it comes to you in these giant planks of fully recycled EPS that literally fall apart as soon as you touch them. So um, EPS as a packaging cushioning material is probably going to die out within our lifetime, but I don't ever see it, at least in the near future, being totally phased out for things like insulated coolers, because the properties that it has are really hard to beat. And you know, it is what it is. Um,
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I've become aware of things that are going on in the just recent times
oh,
that
really?
could potentially replace EPS, which have got similar thermal insulation properties.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm excited about that.
yeah. I think it's going to happen pretty soon because certainly in the UK and in Europe, EPS is one of those materials that's on the red list,
Hmm.
as Tesco's would call it, the red list. It's got to go. It's on the removal list. Um, because of the toxic. Um, uh, I've got to be careful what I say here because I don't like spreading misinformation.
Right.
But it's proven, scientifically proven, to cause potential health problems, shall we say?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But again,
okay,
back to paper packaging, whether it's corrugated or folding carton, um, it, it the infrastructure, whether it's broken or not, which I'm a realist, not so much an optimist or a pessimist. At least in this country, um, our recycling as a whole, the industry is way understaffed, and for us to trust our city governments to do the right thing with our trash, which is not put it in a landfill and to sort it and put it back into the industry, that's just not happening the way it should.
certainly not happening with certain material streams such
That's
as
right.
plastics.
That's
Plastics
right.
in the UK, we're getting, well, it depends on which stats you look at, but I think on average it's less than 10%.
Yeah.
Flexible plastics is under 5, probably under 3%.
Yeah.
Nobody
So,
wants the stuff.
you remember this in our lifetime when plastics started to be marked with the little codes on the bottom, the triangles and the arrows,
Mm.
1 through 8 or 9 or whatever we're up to. I don't see that being used as much as I especially I would have hoped. I know the industry, and that's unfortunate, but um, I think going forward it will be very valuable to have, and it's just a matter of sorting it and putting it back in. And it sounds easy, but it's really not.
Well, in the UK, we're recovering in terms of fibre, cardboard, paper, fibre. We're recovering over 80%, probably as much as 85%. Um, I don't. What's it? Do you know what the number is in the US?
I don't, but I do have a
Percentages.
question for you, Ian.
Yeah.
Uh, the average homeowner, whether you're urban or suburban or rural, um, do you know what percentage of people actually take
Mhm.
their recycling to a different facility, or is it curbside? Or I'm sure a large percentage, like in America, just don't care and they throw it all in the trash.
So, as far as I know, right the way across the United Kingdom, we have curbside collection, but each local authority has a different collection infrastructure. So, I mean, we've got 5 bins of various different material streams: garden waste, um, food waste. Um, we put cardboard and plastics, recyclable plastics, in one bin. Then we have the black bin for the non-recycled products. We have a glass
And it,
bin.
and if everyone would do what you're doing, it would probably work.
Yeah,
Because I know
yeah.
in my neighborhood, let's say about a 5 block radius, me and one other person are the only people or households that have all three bins available to us, which is plastics and glass
Okay.
and aluminum, uh, corrugated, corrugated only boxes, not any office paper or anything like that, and then just household trash like food waste and whatever else you feel like throwing away, that's not recyclable. So um, again, it's down to the education of the people, their willingness to do it, and the how much the government motivates. Like making those available is great, but they charge people $1 a month. It's like that's nothing. But people just I don't know. I don't know why they don't. It's something that's obvious to me that we need to do. It's just it's lost on some people. So we'll get
Well,
there
it's a,
someday.
it's
That's one thing I am optimistic about is that the environment is deteriorating at such a exponential rate that people aren't going to have a choice but to do the right thing, or they'll be buried in their own trash. Did you ever see the documentary of the guy that lived in his own trash on purpose?
no.
He didn't throw anything away for I want to say 30 days, and he kept it organized and flattened, and it just piled up everywhere. And it was I'll have to Google it. Like probably if you Googled something like man man living in trash or something, I don't know what you'll find, but anyway, it was very eye opening how much we generate.
Yeah, yeah, it is quite astonishing. And of
Yeah,
course, one of the challenges we have is we are essentially consuming too much stuff, aren't we? And I count myself with that.
guilty.
So we need to reduce our consumption and reduce the burden on the planet generally, which is a toughie, that's for sure. So, okay, moving on to lighter subjects. Oh, waste management. I love a bit of waste management. Um, so, who inspires you?
So one time in an interview, I was asked this question of you're having a dinner party and you can invite three people from outside of your circle of friends. Who would they be? And I said Ellen McNish, Joe Gibbs, and Jesus Christ. And they all looked at me like, why?
Jesus
What?
Christ.
Yeah, I mean, he's he would be a
Fun
great
guy.
conversation starter, and
Yeah,
we would be breaking bread together. And Alan
yeah.
McNish is my all time favorite race car driver. Hi, Alan, good to see you. And then Joe Gibbs is the football coach for the NFL team that I have followed my whole life. They're now called the Washington Commanders
No.
because he's a Renaissance man and knows a lot about a lot of things, but a really great guy. But that's changed over the years, to be honest. Who inspires me? Dr. Michael Earhart is
Ah, yeah.
someone that I know. Do you know him from LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think I think he started following me yesterday, funny enough. Yeah.
So I connected with him probably 3 or 4 years ago. And as you might know, I lived in Chicago for 8.5 years of my early career.
Hmm.
Dr. Earhart um, feeds homeless people, and
Wow.
that's what he does for a living. And he doesn't just do it on when he feels like it. He does it every day. He's
Wow.
a hustler. He is always happy. He is always smiling. He is always hustling, making the food, and he does not just make them give them bags of potato chips and hot dogs. He is making them full gourmet meals. And it's
Wow.
gotten so successful that people have jumped on his bandwagon with him to help him with things like they can provide healthcare products to these people. Um, and just his attitude is so
Mm.
inspiring because, I'm sure getting up at 4 in the morning and whatever his schedule is got to be exhausting. And he just doesn't seem to ever get tired of helping people, and
What a
that's
lovely man. And
that's awesome.
it's probably a lesson to all of us that the power of giving is
Yes,
far greater than the enjoyment of receiving.
that's right. You know what
And
I did in my own small way to help him on social media? He posted that he was in need of a meat slicer, or what he called a grinder. You've seen them at delis where you
yeah,
put a hunk of ham and you slice it thin. He
yeah.
needs one of those. He's gotten so successful help feeding the homeless. And so on my network now knows that anyone in that industry, hey, I tagged Michael. I even tagged Jersey Mike's because I know they use those in their restaurants and they're all over the United States. The company Waring, which is the brand that he wants, uh, if that falls on deaf ears, okay. But the chances of that happening are really slim. And it's just, I have great faith that Dr. Earhart is going to get what he needs and quickly. And
I
it's
think
just so amazing.
there's a funny old thing I think about the way the universe works. That if you put it out there and with the right intention, not in a greedy way, but in a giving way, that sometimes you actually you receive back,
That's right.
providing you communicate it clearly.
That's right.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, okay, finally, uh, what are you reading, watching, playing, whatever it is? Because I know that you're more of a sort of interactive kind of guy. What are you into at the moment?
Um, so I am somewhat embarrassed because I'm 51 years old. I do still play a particular video game. I play Gran Turismo because it is they're up to Gran Turismo 7 now, and I've been playing since the original. Actually, when it was a demo on a PC, when in like 1994, whatever year that was, 95. It has just gotten so amazing, realistic. Why the number of cars in there? It's so much fun. You can race on real racetracks, but that's something that I just do on occasion when I'm bored and there's nothing on TV and it's not nice out. When it's nice out, I am washing cars and mowing grass. I love being outside. But because of my affinity for dad jokes, I have a special list that I'd like to share with you and the listeners of
Okay,
some books that have never been written.
right.
The book title is Dieting, and it's by Hugh Mungus. The book What is the Truth by I Wonder. The Making of a Hot Dog by Frank Furter. To Play in a Band by Sue Zafone. And last but not least, Precautions by Justin Casey Blewett.
Very good. Well done. Well, that's absolutely fantastic, John. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
The pleasure's
Uh,
been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time, and you're an inspiring, humble guy, and with your willingness to share your talents and knowledge is commendable, and the charity work that you're doing as well is absolutely fantastic. If more of us did that, wouldn't the world be a better place?
Yeah, and I can say in to that, you just whatever talent you have, and a lot of people are so humble they don't think they're talented, but if you have eyes that can see and ears that can hear, and you can walk, there is so many opportunities out there for you to help even one person. You don't have to be part of an organization. You don't have to be part of a religion. I started a group on Nextdoor called Humans Helping Humans, and there was a handful of humans that actually care and came out and just, you know, I would delegate things to them where I would get hey, I need some handyman services, and I would either do it or reach out to the group. um, Little things like that, and that you can do it in your neighborhood. You don't have to go all over the world if you don't have the means.
Mm.
um, just do the best you can, and the only way we're going to survive, this planet deteriorating, is by helping each other. And one of the people that inspired me growing up was Mr. Fred Rogers. I watched his TV show a lot, and also Sesame Street. And both of those shows, as I look back, are just uh, they instilled so many values that children enjoy. Not just having great parents is a huge part of it, and having a supporting wife. I could not do what I'm doing without the support of my wife, Trish. And but Fred Rogers was a helper, and I've told this to a handful of people recently. No, if we have a zombie apocalypse or a civil war, or the Russians invade, and whatever, uh, I'm probably not going to be on the front lines with a gun in my hand. What I'm going to be doing is helping people either that are wounded or people that don't know what to do,
Mm.
because there's ways that you can. Not that I'm a hippie or anything, but I'm not anti-gun or anti-war. I just helping people to me is more important than fighting sometimes. And not that I don't get a little ticked off now and then about a few things. I'm not an innocent person, but yeah, I'm sorry for the long answer, but it's really important.
Absolutely. Well, look, John, thank you so much. You have yourself a lovely weekend. Best regards to Trish and the rest of your family. And I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks so much, Ian. Great chatting with you, and thanks so much for the opportunity to share. And it's been great. And I wish you the best of luck, and I'll be seeing you on LinkedIn.